LV-178, which would later come to be known as New Galveston, is a planet that was first explored and mined for the mineral trimonite. The mines were eventually closed and the planet abandoned, but many years later it was terraformed and colonized, being formally renamed to New Galveston. There were numerous small settlements, but only 3 major settlements, which were connected via train tubes. The Sea of Sorrows is an old toxic mining area where miners found a trimonite vein and a collection of xenomorphs. The Sea of Sorrows is where the mercenaries employed by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation are looking for the xenomorph specimens to capture, which results in many deaths. In the year 2159, the DSMO Marion sat in low orbit around the planet known as LV-178, as the ship was there with a crew in order to use the planet for mining purposes. Eventually the crew begins mining for a material known as trimonite, located deep within veins in the planet's crust. However, the Marion eventually loses contact with the surface, and after 2 long days of not being able to get in contact with them, and not being able to go down and check out the situation because the Marion's 2 shuttles were already on the surface, the Marion detects that the shuttles have launched from the planet's surface, and with still no communication between the 2. The 2 shuttles, named the Samson and the Delilah, after launching, began to act strangely, as if controls weren't being handled correctly. At an ever-increasing speed, the shuttles ascended, eventually contacting the Marion, which reveals that an unknown alien organism was in the process of butchering the crew of the shuttles. The Delilah collides with the Marion, which severely damages the ship and also kills the captain and security officer. Despite this, the Samson is able to dock successfully. The survivors quickly flee the shuttle and seal off the docking area from the rest of the ship and contain the xenomorphs within. This left them stranded from their only way off the ship. The news getting worse, however, is that the Marion has now begun to drift closer and closer to the planet LV-178, as the ship enters a decaying orbit. The bridge has been rendered useless, the long-range antenna has been destroyed, and so in a last-ditch attempt for rescue, the survivors of the ordeal transmit a localized distress call. The Marion's transmission is eventually picked up by the Nostromo's escape craft, known as the Narcissus, the same one used by Ellen Ripley over 30 years prior to flee the self-destructing Nostromo, after herself and the crew were also under attack by the xenomorph creatures. It is discovered that the android Ash has also survived by uploading his consciousness into the computer of the Narcissus, and was the reason Ellen had slept for almost 30 years. This was in an attempt to use her to obtain another xenomorph specimen somehow, completing his order, Special Order 937. After he detected the Marion, Ash finally had his opportunity. They eventually docked with the Marion, and shortly after waking up, Ellen realizes that it had been 35 years since she entered cryosleep, and that Ash was very much alive, and that once again she would have to show down with the alien xenomorph creature. Together, Ripley and the survivors of the Marion decide that the Narcissus is their only hope. Even though it would take years, they would still have a chance of survival and making it back to Earth. But first, the fuel cells must be recharged, and the only cells in light years were located in the mines of LV-178. They eventually decide to use the Samson to descend to the planet's surface and resort to using mining tools to kill the xenomorphs held within the docking bay. 3 crew members of the Marion are killed in the process, as well as 1 remaining xenomorph, making it into the Marion itself. The crew members ignore this and make it into the Samson. Once on the planet, Ripley and crew member Hoop and 4 others enter the mines, and while riding within an elevator down to the needed level, Ash is able to hack into the Marion systems and cause the elevator to plummet. It falls down to the lower levels of the mine, which is the original place the Xenomorphs were initially encountered. Once reaching the bottom, the elevator suffers severe damage, making it useless. Now forced to move through the mine on foot, Ripley and the others eventually encounter the Xenomorph source. The source was an old derelict vessel that's crew appeared to be strange dog-like creatures. Xenomorphs soon appear and chase the survivors, eventually forcing them to take refuge within the derelict craft. The Xenomorphs had more than a bloodthirst intent by leading them into the ship, as it was revealed there was a mass of Xenomorph eggs aboard. One of the crew members, named Sneeden, is eventually subdued by a facehugger. Another, Kasanov, is covered in the Xenomorph's acidic blood, however miraculously survives. And Ellen Ripley is terribly wounded. After all this bloodshed, the tattered group eventually make it to the second elevator, and in the process lose another to the Xenomorphs, as the creatures cut crew member Baxter in half. Shortly after they discover the fuel cells, they take one with them and leave another to explode on the planet as an attempt to wipe out the remaining Xenomorphs and the derelict vessel containing their eggs. After returning to and using the Samson shuttle to return to the Marion, they witness the surface of LV-178 suffer the effects of the fuel cell's explosive force. Wasting no time once aboard, the survivors head for the medical bay of the Marion as Ripley is near death. Neglecting the threat present, the remainder of the survivors are attacked by the sole Xenomorph, which results in the crew member Lauchlan's death. Now only Ripley, Hoop, Sneeden, and Kasyanov remain alive. Sneeden awakes soon after and is able to tail the fleeing Xenomorph and is able to successfully kill herself, her chestburster, and the Xenomorph in one foul swoop. As the Marion begins to become ever closer to destruction, the crew put Ripley into a medpod. However, as they are about to heal her wounds, she requests that she have her memories altered and wiped of the events that had occurred since her arrival aboard the Marion. This is due in part to the horrible nightmares Ripley was encountering about her daughter and the Xenomorphs. Hoop begrudgingly agrees, and after Ripley has been fully healed and her mind wiped, Kasanov enters the medpod to heal her own injuries, to which the android Ash is able to hack the machine and successfully terminate her life. Hoop, tired of these events, quickly returns Ripley to the Narcissus and finds Jonesy the cat, also a survivor of the Nostromo, there waiting for them. Ripley is placed within a cryopod, and Hoop decides to destroy Ash once and for all as he introduces a powerful virus programmed into the Narcissus. This proves successful, however one final act of defiance comes from Ash when he is able to set the shuttle to start the undocking procedures before Hoop can enter the craft. The Narcissus leaves the Marion without Hoop as he watches his only chance of escape leave with a woman who won't even remember that he existed. Knowing that the Marion will shortly be destroyed by the atmospheric turbulence, he boards the Samson shuttle and sets it to return to the surface of LV-178. He opens up a bottle of alcohol and records a distress call in which he declares himself the last survivor of the Marion. Many years later, centuries in fact, within the 24th century, after the events of the Marion and Ellen Ripley's encounter with them, LV-178 is colonized and given the new designation New Galveston. This occurs after the fall of the United Systems military and the Weyland-Yutani Company, after decades of decline, swoop into Earth's rescue, after the damaging effects that Earth suffered in pollution, then when the tragic Auriga crash occurred there by the USM. Earth was eventually cleaned up by the company and recolonized, which led to a number of other older Wayland off-world bases to be reclaimed and have permanent settlements founded there, as Weyland-Yutani entered a new gold age. Within the 2460s and 70s, there were 3 cities established on the surface, and with a number of new mining operations opened. The cities flourished, and by the year 2496, there were plans being made for a 4th city to be created. However, there were problems that were occurring with this new city. The site originally chosen for the city is found to have a very low soil density than previously expected, resulting in the surface being very soft. 2 deputy commissioners, Alan Dekker and deputy engineer Lucas Rand, who are both a part of the Interstellar Commerce Commission, are sent to LV-178 in order to investigate the soil and determine the possible causes of this irregularity. During their inquisition on the site known as Sea of Sorrows, Alan Dekker suffers an industrial accident when a probe platform badly injures his leg after he falls from it. Dekker discovers that an old subsidiary of Weyland-Yutani had set up a mine there during the 2100s and had failed to disclose this to the ICC. With this information, he decides it is important to include in his field report. He is then sent back to Earth within a hypersleep pod. Once Dekker has arrived back to Earth, he discovers that Weyland-Yutani were pushing the ICC to change the report filed by himself as to remove any trace of the old mine on New Galveston. In the year 2497, Dekker is strangely suspended from his job without compensation after an investigation begins into the actions and events at the research site at Sea of Sorrows. Soon after, Dekker is abruptly captured by a group of mercenaries that have been paid by Weyland-Yutani to take him in. They take him and travel themselves back to LV-178 aboard the ship Kyenga. They place him in hypersleep for the journey, and once arriving, he is revived. He is faced with some rather shocking news from Weyland-Yutani in the form of their representative, Andrea Rowlands, as she informs him that he is a distant descendant of the Ripley family, and that it is now up to him to pay for the damages caused by Ripley and her descendants, stating that as far as the company was concerned, Weyland-Yutani owned him. As well as this, it was revealed that Dekker had a psychic connection with the Xenomorphs, leading us to believe that he was more closely related to Ripley 8, the clone, than Ellen Ripley herself. This was Weyland's main reason for capturing him, as to use this ability to their advantage. Along with 35 mercenaries, Dekker descended to the surface of LV-178 and discovered the old mine site that was originally used by the crew of the Marion over 300 years ago, with the promise that if the company got what they wanted, then Dekker would be allowed to go free. Once finding the lower area of the mine, they discover pieces of the derelict craft encountered by Ripley and the Marion survivors centuries before, and upon further investigation of the area, they find an ancient alien city structure buried underground. This strange alien city has another mass of xenomorph eggs, along with Weyland scientists that had been subdued by FaceHuggers, that were sent there earlier to examine the site. After this revelation, the mercenaries are cut down in numbers substantially, until only a few remain. One group of them is beginning to explore the myriad silica tunnels discovered within the mine, when another group were taken for implanting or killed by the Xenomorphs. While this occurs, a third group ventures to the bottom of the mines and are eventually cut off as the elevator in their area is destroyed, when one of the doctors decides that allowing the Xenomorphs to reach the surface of the planet and being allowed to attack the populace of the cities of New Galveston is unacceptable. Another doctor, Dr. Cho, angered at this, shoots him, but then is quickly overrun and killed by a bunch of xenomorphs that were attracted to the gunshot. The group at the base of the mine, along with Cho, as well as most of the group searching the tunnels above, are all slaughtered, or taken for impregnation. Dekker, along with a handful of survivors of the group, stumble upon the alien queen, and with much trouble are able to eventually kill her. However, in the frenzy, 2 of the group are attacked by FaceHuggers. Eventually more are killed, and Dekker and only 5 other survivors now remain, including those who have been impregnated. Eventually, they make it back to the Kyanga and are attacked once more by a lone xenomorph. The mercenary by the name of Manning is able to trap the xenomorph with a rapid set material that cured to form a coating as tough as concrete cement. Weyland-Yutani now had what they wanted: a xenomorph specimen. Dekker, once getting back to the ship, finds that everyone stationed at the mining colony has been killed, and Weyland-Yutani representative Andrea Rowlands decides now that they have the adult xenomorph trapped, and 2 more people with incubating chestbursters, that is all they needed from their mission. Rowlands orders the mine system to be nuked from orbit, and Rowlands presumably keeps her word with sending Dekker back to Earth. While he implores her to destroy the xenomorphs, it is to no avail, and she has the xenomorph secured while the 2 people, Adams and Elway, who were impregnated, are put into hypersleep and are to be sent elsewhere. And at this point, this is where our knowledge of LV-178 ends. For future references, we can tell that the cities on the planet seem to have survived past the events of Dekker and the mercenaries, and it is not confirmed whether the xenomorphs within this ancient city structure were completely wiped out. Evidence to support their survival is briefly mentioned in further stories, such as in the Predator incursion novels that take place directly after the story events. But if you did enjoy this video, guys, please leave a like. If you have a video idea or there's anything you would like to talk about, just meet me down in the comments section. And if you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here on the channel, subscribe, or you can become a Patreon and get access to behind the scenes content and early access to new content. And that's basically it for today, so I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.